It's June 2016 and Nigel Farage has just achieved what he spent most of his adult life working towards. Britain has voted to leave the European Union. But what next for Nigel Farage? In the third and final part of this series, we'll take a look at how the past decade has taken him to the position he's in today at the top of the polls and as a favourite to be the next Prime Minister. The fundamental question behind this part of the Nigel Farage story is whether the Brexit that he campaigned for was betrayed in its delivery, or whether the cause was betrayed when so many of Brexit's architects, Nigel Farage himself included, stepped away from frontline politics so soon after the campaign was won and before much of the hard work was to begin. The answer to that question is for you to decide. Welcome to History Counts. If, like me, you believe that understanding the past is key to understanding the present, then do subscribe. I make a new video every week. The victory of the Brexit campaign stunned the British political establishment. In the whirlwind of the morning after, David Cameron, the Remainer Tory Prime Minister, resigned. That sparked a fierce leadership contest within the Conservative Party, one in which the favourites, one by one, the most high profile being Boris Johnson, imploded, leaving only a Remainer, Theresa May, to be coronated as the new Prime Minister. We'll do a whole series on how Brexit was delivered. The story is complicated, dramatic, and very important, but suffice to say for now, the issue of what Brexit looked like divided the country like no political issue in recent history. For many of the Brexiteers who'd campaigned in the referendum, Theresa May's deal felt like a soft Brexit, not the sovereignty that they had campaigned for. But for much of the time that politicians were wrestling with that question, Nigel Farage simply wasn't there. 2 weeks after the referendum in 2016, he resigned as the leader of UKIP, saying that he wanted his life back. After his exit, UKIP floundered. They couldn't find a leader that could match Nigel Farage's charisma, and they found themselves drifting out to the hard right of British politics. Nigel Farage distanced himself from what the party had become. But by 2019, with Theresa May's Brexit deal floundering and her government on the rocks, Nigel Farage spied an opportunity. He re-entered frontline British politics, this time at the head of a new party, the Brexit Party. He branded Brexit betrayed and the new party rose quickly in the polls. In the 2019 European elections, Nigel Farage and the Brexit Party came top. It was a political earthquake and it precipitated the collapse of Theresa May's government and a new contest to lead the Conservative Party. It also importantly proved that Nigel Farage could still make the political weather. By summer of 2019, Boris Johnson had won that leadership competition. Later that year, he called a general election and he campaigned on the promise to get Brexit done. It worked. Boris Johnson won a huge majority in that general election, and Nigel Farage and his Brexit Party were shunted off into irrelevance as Britain formally left the EU in January 2020. As the pandemic hit, the Brexit Party was rebranded as Reform UK and they campaigned on issues like immigration and lockdown policy. But with Boris Johnson totally dominant in UK politics, they struggled to get traction or media attention. Instead of leading reform, Nigel Farage launched a lucrative new career in broadcasting. He joined the insurgent TV channel GB News as a host and used the platform to build a loyal following and maintain influence. When the general election was called in 2024 after years of Conservative turmoil, Nigel Farage was ready. He made a surprise return as Reform leader as the campaign got underway, and finally, after decades in frontline British politics, he won a seat in the House of Commons. Since that election, with both Labour and the Tories experiencing historic levels of unpopularity, Nigel Farage has manoeuvred himself into position as the Prime Minister in waiting. He is top of the polls and many people's favourite to be the next Prime Minister. There's years yet before the next general election and politics changes quickly as we've seen over the last few years, but the position that Nigel Farage has found himself in is truly remarkable. Over the course of the past 3 decades, the ultimate political outsider has become perhaps the most influential politician of the 21st century. For over 100 years, every Prime Minister this country has come from the Conservative Party or the Labour Party. Nigel Farage may be about to break that and find himself at the head of a country made up of 70 million people.